You know, the mosques in Britain and the mosques in France and the mosques in America, the mosques that surround Israel, are all found and known to be encouraging children to kill Jews. They tell the Jews that they kill babies and children, eat them, eat blood. The teens are told this, adults. Why wouldn't they believe it? They will believe it. For why? Because they've never been told anything else. And some of these guys that have escaped out of this have said, you know, I was absolutely horrified when I realized the mind washing we'd gone through. In other words, they don't have freedom of choice, they're told. And that's why you see all these children lugging stones and rocks, etc. Now, a rock can kill you as well as a bullet can, actually, if they get too bad. And the Israelis are certainly not going to allow them into their towns and cities. If Israel was not strong, their cities and towns in Israel would be in the same mess as Syria and Iraq and all these nations that we see now. It is chaos, absolute chaos. Fortunately, they won't, and they defend themselves, and that gets these liberal people back up. What do they expect? I'd love to somebody to get in a ring and sort of say, yeah, well, you know, I'm such a nice guy, you know, I won't hit back if you hit me, no matter how many times you hit me. Supposing I hated the guy, well, what a wonderful opportunity. And Israel's not like that, fortunately. She's very strong. And she's had to, on 6 or 7 occasions, so 7 odd now, face up. Now, she's only a small nation. When they first attacked her in 1948, do you know that she only had 750,000 people, and she was facing an army that supplied 50 million people, with over 1,000 tanks between the 6 nations, and Britain and Israel didn't have one? Nobody knows how she won that. It was divine intervention. Otherwise, she couldn't have won. You know, we in the West have got this political correctness now. You can't say this and you can't say that, and you can't say this and you can't say that. This woman's right. This is actually hampering our ability to defend ourselves now. And you know, I think that the days of reasonable Western leaders is certainly going to come to an end in a hurry, because, you know, elections are coming up. And we can't allow this to continue. We've got children, we've got grandchildren. I had a Jewish friend phone me up the other day, and we were talking. He said, you know, I'm a grandfather and I've got all these grandchildren. I'm scared about what the future is. And I said, well, you know, you must go and speak to your Jewish school and find out what the security arrangements are. And this is in Britain, you know. Because in Britain they're sort of saying, well, you know, the security service saying, you know, we can't turn all this back. They're facing up to and finding an attack, a potential attack every month or so. And at one stage they were sort of indicating that one of these attacks could end up being a nuclear attack. Well, you know, there we are. That's what we're facing. And they want us to be politically correct? No, we'll change the leaders. If the leaders don't want to face up to this and they want to be all nice, well, then we must change the leaders. And we must get leaders in that will face up to this. And we have, fortunately, in Britain, a really realistic guy who is coming forth. He's in UKIP. And he's even popular in America. So they keep on saying in America, what a wonderful, refreshing thing to hear somebody telling the truth. Because our leaders certainly are not telling the truth. They really are not. And we caught them out so many times that we just nobody believes them anymore. You know, they're sort of saying, well, how do you know he's lying? Well, when his lips are moving. It's just that simple. And I'm very sorry to report that, because, you know, it's a pity. But this has got to do with 2 things. This Islamic attack that's going on throughout the West and Europe, and also to do with Europe. I remember Mr. Farage getting up and saying to Mr. Brown, he said, Mr. Brown, he was the Prime Minister of Britain, I see you've quickly caught on to the way you handle Europe. You tell the British people one thing and you tell Europe another. In other words, he was lying. They said that, you know, I'm probably Islamophobe. I had wonderful relations in my former country with these people. I did a lot of business with them. Matter of fact, I was one of the few that did. I had very big, I think it took over 50% of my business when nobody else had that. I had that. I went to their weddings, I went to their deaths, I went to their births, I went to their parties, they came to my parties, deaths, funerals, etc. So we had an ongoing relationship with that, and then suddenly it changed. It changed. And I'm sure the people of Ethiopia, Western Ethiopia, can tell you all about that. They had for hundreds of years, a very happy relationship with their Muslim neighbors. And then one day, hundreds of thousands of those Ethiopians, Christians, had to flee. They lost their homes, they lost their churches, they lost their businesses, as they fled before a raging mob of former friends and neighbors who now wanted to kill them. And suddenly the Western Ethiopia, which is adjacent of course to Sudan, became depopulated of Christians. And we see this all over. I mean, in the Middle East, 3.5 million, that's million, Christians were ethnically cleansed out of the areas. So you all these, where have they gone? They've had to go into concentration camps. They've lost their businesses, homes, churches, everything. I mean, what was it, about a year ago, some minister wanted to burn a Quran. I mean, the world just about came to an end. These people are not only burning churches, but they're burning people inside the churches, killing them, and furthermore, they're burning thousands of Bibles, thousands of them. What is wrong? Political correctness. I mean, we went into the Middle East also as a diversion during the Crusades. And let's face it, the Crusaders weren't nice people. They were they weren't terribly educated. And the Pope had organized it, and he'd organized really not a very happy event. These people got there, and they killed Muslims. They killed Christians. They killed thousands of them. And they were Jews as well. We have never stopped apologizing for those 8 battles. I've never heard one Muslim apologize for the 1,000 battles that killed 270 million people. Never heard that. Never. He talks about peace and should be trying to undertake peace with the Muslims, the poor Muslims, etc. Well, what does he think all the presidents have been trying to do for the last 50 or 60 years? And they gave them everything they wanted, and they wouldn't sign. It just is unacceptable. And then we're back into war again. They wouldn't sign it. They wouldn't sign the agreements. That was at the Northern White House, I think, and that was I forget which president it was, but he in actual fact came out and said we gave them everything they wanted, and they wouldn't sign. And he went back, and he got into war again, and he attacked Israel. Now, as far as I'm concerned, that is, to me, that should have been the end of it. They should have said, well, you've had every chance. We've taken it from every side. In all the years we've been doing, I mean, this Kerry is negotiating. They must have sort of, what would you call it? A template with all the conditions and everything that could have been achieved and what they nearly achieved last time. There must be millions of templates after all this time. Yet they wouldn't sign it. Even although the Israeli prime ministers were willing to sign away the Golan, sign away other things, and Gaza and all sorts of things, and they wouldn't sign it because he knew that the people didn't want it, and so he wouldn't sign it. And so they go to another war, and yet another war, and yet another war. And then I hear idiots blaming Israel. What can she do? I mean, I'd just like them to demonstrate it. Look, they can get in the ring, I'll get in the ring, provided they don't get up and try to hit me back. I'll hit them as much as I can, and I don't want to hear them complain. Because that's what we got. We got here, they're complaining literally because Israel is strong enough to defend herself. That's what she's doing. She's strong enough to defend herself. And I mean, I don't know how she won and even the Americans have got no idea how she won the 48 war. There's 700,000 people in Israel facing 50 or 60 million Islamics with thousands of tanks and well armed, and they lost the war. Nobody expected them to lose it, you know. And when they gave the details to the Americans, said, you know, could you analyze this and tell us what you think? They said, no, we can't. You shouldn't have won. You couldn't win under those circumstances. And you know what? I agree. That was divine intervention, like it or not. What was this woman on Fox News reporting on? She was reporting on murders by terrorists of people just doing their job. And, you know, what can you say about that? I mean, he seems to think that there's something wrong with with her saying that, talking like that about that. Well, what came first, Russell? The attack or her reporting? Clearly her reporting didn't come first. She was reporting on something. She didn't cause the event. They caused the event. And they were highly trained. This wasn't just a thought, no, let's go and do that. These were highly trained men. And I would probably put them up against most, because that's all they've worked for, to kill those people. Like they've got the Al-Quds brigades in Syria right now. That means, you know, Jerusalem brigades. In other words, they're trained, highly trained, from the Iranian army to take Jerusalem. That's what they're trained for. And right now, there's 50,000 Hezbollah troops on the Israeli border. Now, the Israelis didn't drive there. First, they had a few sort of men there watching the border. Then they had to find men and bring them up. Israel isn't underemployed. Her people are well paid. And what a shame, isn't it, when you think about it, that you have the Islamics whose people are poverty-stricken. And there you've got Israel coming in. She's having to fight a war, buy a chair for every army man and for themselves. They buy a chair. They buy also a chair for them. They have to maintain all this equipment. They have to put people in gear to go and defend all the time or fight. And all these men are highly trained, high-tech people. I mean, you know, when America wanted to sell, you know, the AWAC aircraft, they couldn't sell it because they had to ask Israel first, because Israel conceived of and produced all high-tech spy mechanisms that are on those aircraft. So they couldn't sell them to Turkey until they asked Israel. There isn't a mobile phone that can exist without Israeli high-tech and manufacturing. And it goes on. There's a lot more like that. But I've just taken those as an example. There's nothing like that coming out of Islamic. Israel produces almost as many new books as the whole of Islam. She is only 8 million people, and they represent 400, 500 million up in that northern area. So, you know, what I'm saying is somebody's got to get proportion here. I'm just reporting what I have seen and what is reported in the news. There's nothing that I have said that cannot be checked out. I do not conceive or like the flaying arms of Russell, you know, sort of poo-pooing everything. Why doesn't he get some facts? Why don't we hear his opinion? It's easy to criticize others, but he never put any opinions out. Is he scared of being criticized? Thank you very much for listening. I just had to do this because, you know, I watched his ridiculous video today, and some people unfortunately will believe it.